And here's Willie Birch's lithograph.
Which I think is a great example of two things that were happening at the Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop. One being working with artists in a way that allowed them to do what we call print as you go, so draw a layer and respond to that particular thing, as well as have an image benefit something larger than just the general art community or purchasing community. So this was actually done with a joint grant through the NEA with the Brodsky Center in New Jersey. It's associated with Rutgers University, where we were each working with different artists from the city of New Orleans to replace works, producing editions to replace works that were lost during Hurricane Katrina.
Right.
So Willie Birch is a prominent artist from New Orleans. He spent a long time in New York City, and he knew Bob Blackburn very well when Bob was alive. And so we invited Willie into the studio to make a piece that was very much about New Orleans.
And very personal.
And very personal. These are two views split from his backyard. And Willie had left New York City to move back to New Orleans. He said specifically to explore drawing. And he said everyone thinks about New Orleans, they think about the food, they think about the music, they think about the dance, and they think about the spirit of New Orleans within those things. And he said there is a spirit of New Orleans within drawing that I don't believe has really been explored. And he said, so I needed to move home to really fully explore that. And so he moved home and he dedicated himself to a different drawing practice and really trying to find that feeling, that spirit of New Orleans that is so unique to the place and so unique to the history, and how that comes through in the work. And so when he came into the studio, he said to me, he's like, Phil, I don't want to make a print. And I said to him, I know, I don't want you to make a print either. And he looks at me and he's like, what? I was like, I want you to make a work of art. And he's like, oh, man.
Walked right into that.
Exactly. And he's like, fine. He's like, then you're going to have to print it.
Yeah.
And so that's the push-pull that we had, and we talked about building the image as he goes. So he had two photographs he was working from as guides, but they're two small 4x6 photographs. And so he started drawing, and we started building it, first layer, second layer, printing very transparent black inks. So it's wash work and crayon drawing and pencil drawing. It's all building and building and building. So he draws each layer in black. We print it in a different quality of black ink.
It's a very colorful black and white image.
Exactly. So we're using like green blacks and blue blacks and orange blacks and a little bit of yellow in a black or a little bit of silver in a black.
Lots of nuance.
To get that kind of movement and feeling. And so by the time we had the fourth layer down, it's very thin. It's more like an underpainting. And Willie said to me, he was like, I don't know, Phil, if this is going to work out. And I said to him, I said, how long does it take you on one of your big drawings to get to that place where you feel it might work out? Like you're kind of pushing and tugging on that drawing, building up surface and trying to find where it is. He says, 2 or 3 weeks. I'm like, that's 4 or 5 layers in lithography.
Yeah.
I was like, hang in there. And then we hit run 5. He's like, I think this is starting to look good. I think it's going to go somewhere. We hit layer 6, layer 7. This ends up being a 10-layer, 10-color lithograph.
Right.
And so for him, he got to explore his drawing method through a wildly different medium, working with wet and dry media, being able to work back in ways that you can't do on paper, and to build something so he didn't feel like he had to have this final idea and then work backwards from it in a sense of it being finished. He could have a final idea that is not fully realized and work towards the realization of that.
Right.
And that's really, I think, illustrated well within this print. And for him, it's conceptually what it is you've got the top half, which has a portion of a bottle garden that he has in his backyard.
Keep away the evil spirits.
Keep away the evil spirits as well.
An African
It's a West African religious tradition as well as remembrance of your ancestors. And so a lot of times a small sparkle, glint of glass, it's placed for a specific purpose or a reason from a historical moment or a person or place in time, so that there is kind of that twinkle of reminder of where you've come from and how you've gotten where you are today, and a reminder of responsibility of the carrying on of legacy and tradition and heritage and the importance of remembering one's past to influence one's future. And so that's that portion. And then you have the bottom half, which is a mud mound. So crawfish make these crazy tunnels underground, and being at the water table so close to the surface of the ground in New Orleans, they will tunnel and you'll have this beautiful backyard, perfectly manicured, and in the morning there'll be this mud mound that comes up. And so they're like little architects, they dig these tunnels.
And it's enshrined, it's really showcased, it's like
very much
in a jewel case here.
Exactly. Well, and he said a lot of people, in New Orleans, they're like upset by them because they have this perfect yard and these mud mounds pop up in the middle of the night. But other people really cherish them because they are like these little architects. They take one kind of mud to start building up, a different kind of leaves and sticks get stuck in, and a different kind for the exterior. And they use these as parts of their ways of tunneling around in their breeding periods of time and things like that.
And he's using it symbolically.
He's using it symbolically, which is the culture that exists, the underground culture, the current, or like kind of, you can say, the spirit of the flow of the city of New Orleans that exists under the surface that will make itself manifest in certain places
and
at certain
endure,
times. And
endure.
And in this kind of way, coming from something unexpected. So you don't necessarily think of a crawfish as being a builder, but they are, and they build these crazy mud mounds, and they're like adobe structures.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like likens it to saying that the unexpected interjecting itself into your life, and he looks at the arts as having that kind of role, as to show you something you didn't necessarily expect at a time and in a place where you really need something like that to happen, maybe, and you notice something that one day might be an annoyance in your yard, and the next day you might notice it as being something beautiful.
And appreciate it.
And it's really about that duality of the lives that we have to live and the lives that we're trying to live,
mm-hmm.
and where those things intersect and how we can make that
There's
happen.
a whole philosophy in there.
Exactly, and it's very much about New Orleans, and it's very much about that kind of tangle of the grass and the leaves and how everything grows together and intertwines and is separate but together, and all, when you start to think about the culture of New Orleans as being this massive melting pot of a place of people from all different cultures that over the history of that city that have intermingled and found this way to exist with one another. And so for him, it was really important to do something like this for that sort of conceptual project of making sure that this was artwork that's going into a public arena in the city of New Orleans that really speaks to New Orleans,
right.
and to people within the city. So not necessarily everyone from outside of the city would immediately understand these visual cues, but people in New Orleans would.
Tell me again the date, when the year this was made.
And
the reason I'm asking is because it's
10 maybe.
I think that's right. So it's operating interesting. It's traveling through time. It's a
right.
memory container. We're coming up. We're just past the 10th year anniversary
exactly.
for Hurricane Katrina. So it's really an important memorial as well.
Exactly, and he really, one of the reasons for the bottle garden is that kind of reminder of those history points.
Yeah.
And it's really about making sure we appreciate our culture and we remember it and we learn from it. And that, we allow these things to be, allow the differences to be positive influences, and versus just trying to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
So it was a really special project to work on with Willie, and I think it really is an embodiment of a lot of the philosophy of the workshop, of the Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop. And in building from that...
It's one of my favorites.
It's one of my favorite prints, too. I had a blast working on it. And in transitioning from this print to this suite of lithographs by Sara Sanders, this was a print-as-you-go process, meaning you draw a layer, respond to it, draw the next layer, gets printed in another color, and you respond. The works that you see here of Sara Sanders are done in the same format.
These are mind-bending, these works. They're tiny, but they're monumental.
They're beautiful, yeah. And so Sara's focus as an artist is to really positively influence your life. She doesn't feel that art should be stressful. She doesn't want to, when you come home and you've got this work on your wall, that it's going to cause you to reevaluate your life in a way that's tense. And so she really loves artwork that can be life-affirming and positive and sets up potential.
Mm-hmm.
So
positive psychology artwork, okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And so for her, chairs are kind of a stand-in for people
mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways. So
they're like portraits of yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, and when you think about the way in which the aesthetics of them, you take certain things for granted when you look at them, like the fact that there's only 2 legs instead of 4 that are visible, mm-hmm. the fact that they feel cozy mm-hmm. and inviting. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't really she wants you to feel like you can sit in the chair. Mm-hmm. And it's that kind of sitting in a chair that allows you to relax and shed the weight of the day. The kind of sitting in the chair that is a place where you think about things and develop ideas. And
a contemplative space,
exactly.
A
haven, all these wonderful things that you want within a home,
mm-hmm.
within your own environment, as well as having lots of personality.
Yeah,
and so
they really
some
do.
of the chairs are based off of chairs that actually exist in reality, and some of them are composites of parts of different chairs, and some of them are totally made up. And some of them have interesting histories in and of themselves. And so for her, these are the first 4 of a longer running
Different
series.
generations.
Exactly. Different generations and aesthetics, and you kind of start to imagine the home that they'll be in. For her, why she eliminates the background is that she wants you to apply the stage. She wants the chair to exist in the space that you create. So she painstakingly works to give you enough details so that you fulfill the narrative. So if you think about it more in terms of writing or literature, right, exactly. Really great storytellers let you fill in some of the details.
She wants to activate the audience in that way.
So this is really about that sort of activation for her. And so she will warp the drawings. So she'll draw a chair in perfect foreshortened perspective. Then she'll eliminate some details like back legs, and she'll start to warp the drawing in a way that's more how our mind-eye experiences a chair, not a chair that could actually exist in that foreshortening. So it'll widen because it needs to be a little bit more inviting, or the chair will tip back, or the arms will twist. So when you look at them, they look right.
Yes.
The way you want them to be.
Right.
But it's
an optical kind of illusion.
Right. So it's not about realism or photorealism for her. It's really about internal feeling and how you get the work to this place where this is how you believe the chair should be relative to making it feel inviting, making it feel that this is that sort of safe place, or feel that this has potential.
Okay.
And because that open space for imagination is the area in which she has her own play, but she doesn't want you to be limited to just the way she sees the world. She wants your world to open up as well.
Very generous.
So this particular body of work uses chairs for that particular aspect. She's also done another body of work working with small plants and the plastic pots that you buy them from the store in. She always talks about it. This is the point when you haven't killed your plant. It's totally full of all this wonderful potential, and you're super happy.
It's the sparkle in your eye moment.
Right, and so she really wants people, when they see that, one, to focus on the beauty of the image and the plant and those things, but also to feel that potential, that point when you're like, this is going to be amazing. And so she wants you to have those kind of daily reminders of things. And she feels that art can really help influence your environment in a way that makes you a better person. So to touch upon, again, with Sara's work, kind of how these prints are actually made. So they're a print-as-you-go process, like the Willie Birch print, and which is what Bob Blackburn really pioneered with the painterly process, or the painterly approach to printmaking. And in this case, this is lithography, where Bob had pioneered it as well, which means you draw a layer, print it in a color, and respond with the next layer that you draw, and you build your image over time, versus going, I have a finished idea, and then you break it into parts. So to give you an idea, it's an additive process versus working backwards from a finished product. So Sara, when she's working on one of these chairs, will do a drawing like this, which is just a line drawing.
It's great to see this.
And there's no color, there's no texture of a fabric. It's just a general drawing. So she's finding that shape. Right, so she's warping it to get the right fit and the right feel, the right scale relative to the intimate quality she wants to have with the print, so that it feels like the personality of that chair fills the space.
As you mean with the sort of open arms.
The open arms. So foreshortening-wise, that's not technically correct if you're going for photorealism, but she's not going for that. She's going for emotive quality. Inviting. So she wants it a little more open. So this is how it starts. And so some of what you see here of the films, are what we refer to as films, because they're independent drawings, are some of the different layers of the print. So this is a 13-color lithograph. So when you start thinking about it's 13 colors to build up this feeling of this kind of velvet texture of the fabric. So when Sara and I are working on these prints, a lot of what we talk about is, how do you want it to feel? So what's that fabric? How do you want it? What do you want it to do as far as its space? Do you want it to recede a little bit in space? Do you want it to kind of come forward, or kind of be in an in-between space between the viewer and its own world? How do you want the surfaces to feel? So is it polished wood? Is it shiny brass or tarnished brass? All these different types of elements come into play. How much do you want the pillow to separate from the fabric of the chair?
I love this drawing.
And so you can see here, so the pillow took 3 different colors.
Yeah.
So there was 3 colors to create that softness of the velvet of that. There were 6 colors for the body of the chair. So you can see she's drawing more information that's printed in one color, and she starts to draw less and less and less to interject kind of the thread variations. So you can see here she's really kind of going to get that kind of texture.
Striation.
Right? So yeah, because the velvet has that kind of movement to the fabric, especially older velvet, kind of worn-in velvet.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has to draw all of that. Independent. So this was printed in one color. This was printed in a different green. This one was actually printed in a slight brown tone to kind of give an antique quality to it. And then you can see one of the layers for the feet. So each one of the chairs here has the same level of involvement as far as work is concerned. And the thing to really highlight is she doesn't know what it's going to look like. She doesn't know in the end. She has an idea of what she'd like it to be.
You're projecting.
But she's finding it as she goes.
Right.
And so sometimes we work in a color set and she's like, you know what, the color of the chair needs to change. So we go back to square one and we start all over again. And then to get the color just right, because it has to feel right. And so printmaking allows an artist that opportunity to spend that type of time to evolve the work, to get it just the way they want it. Mm-hmm. But you can also make changes. So like in the case of the black chair, we proofed it in two different ways. One had a yellower black and one was a more violet black. Mm-hmm. And she started talking to people about, well, which one do you like better? Because it had very different feels. And someone had said that one which was the more yellow one, feels like it would be in my office. That one feels like it'd be at home. Huh. So she went for home because that's really what she was going for.
That's part of the concept for the series.
Exactly. She didn't want you to feel like come home and think of work. So that was not the point. So for her, it's really about getting that right emotive quality. And so sometimes you have to change the colors in order to get that perfect feel. And so to kind of re-highlight how we as printers get to this point in the field, it really all started with Bob Blackburn's approach to printmaking, which was it's about making a work of art that happens to be a print. Mm-hmm. It's about using a process for all that it can be. Meaning if it can be editioned, then now we have the concept of a multiple original. Or you could use it and just make one and choose not to edition it. It's up to the choice of the artist, and the artist really makes that selection based on how they would like their voice heard,
right,
and what it is they're saying with that particular work and how far they would like that particular thing to reach. And so printmaking has that really wonderful quality to allow an artist to choose how they would like it to exist in the world. And so the prints that we focused on making, as myself with artists in collaboration with the Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop, we've always had that conversation, just as Bob had started that conversation in the early 40s.
So, and this amazing, stellar, diverse array of artists and voices and techniques really is making your point for you that it's a very open, free kind of canvas. There are rules and there are some rigid ways that things need to be done in order to accomplish. But and it seems like an endless number of choices almost and combinations of things.
Right, and your job as a collaborating printer is to help pare some of those choices down to help your artists not be overwhelmed by the possibilities.
Right.
So because it is overwhelming.
Right.
And then to help support them in their vision. And I think that really is what Bob did with his workshop, was to support artists' own individual creative vision. And I think that's something that's very rare today to find in a lot of places. But printmaking workshops, because of the nature of the process, because it is so collaborative, is one of those few oases where that still continues. No matter what new technologies are added, it's just a new tool in the toolbox. And it allows people to just have an even greater in-depth conversation. And so when I think about Bob's contribution, I actually don't think about it as a finite thing.
Right.
I think about it as a living legacy.
Right.
As what he has done and demonstrated was that our tools are all equally important within our toolbox. All voices are equally as valuable within our community and our conversation, and that all of them should be cherished and preserved for as they are. And try not to redefine things or change their interpretation based on some personal need, but allow things to be themselves and allow things to happen that are unexpected, because you allow all these things to exist as they are within this space. And I think that's a really important thing. And to kind of tie it to the Library of Congress, for me, what's such a wonderful thing about the large selection of works that you have here from the Printmaking Workshop and the Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop, the Continuing History, is that it really represents a slice of American creativity. And it's not all Americans.
An epic slice.
An epic slice.
Really.
And it's such a large period of time, and it really shows the evolution of our culture, the way in which we see the world, the way in which we see ourselves. And it really highlights, I think, a lot of the positive potential. And I think one of the great things about art is that it allows us to see who we can become. And when you look at a wide selection of work like this, individually you may not, as a art lover may not respond to all of these works, but you'll respond to some of them.
And it's all connecting to sort of our history and our culture in ways that are meaningful and important to record and preserve. It's thanks to people like you that this legacy has such light shining and will continue to sort of give. You, Deborah Cullen, have worked to really highlight Bob Blackburn's direct contribution as an artist. And there have been some wonderful things. I have to mention the Library of Congress show in 2003 was a hallmark show that was focusing on the wide output of the printmaking workshop, including Bob's work. And then the Driscoll Center had the recent show in 2014. So, and the last thing you've hinted at this, but I want to sort of mention that all of this is freely accessible. This is a public collection. It belongs to everybody. It belongs to you and Congress and everyone in the world, really. So we hope that you'll help inspire people to come and explore and study and keep. There's an endless frontier in the collections of the library.
My God, yes. And I really encourage people to do the same. Why the Printmaking Workshop archive, as well as contemporary prints being produced today, we wanted it to come here, was because it's open and accessible.
Yeah.
Because to Bob, it was artwork is meant to be lived with. It's meant to be in the world. It's not art if it's not out in the world.
Right.
And many people, when they think of an institution like a museum, they don't necessarily, they think of the flat file drawers and then it stays in there. But you guys here are so rare in the sense that it's fully accessible. Anyone can come and experience the work.
And these are here in the context that we're sort of preserving them. They're primary sources. This is DNA for research and study.
And there's no distance between you and the work.
That's right.
And it's you get to experience it and you get to understand it and you can talk to trained professionals about the work, which is also extraordinarily rare. Because normally, if the work was being displayed in a museum, it's on a wall and you maybe get a couple of sentences about something. But to be able to have someone to talk to give you context, to really help you understand some of the history of why this thing came to be, really helps, I think, allow art to become part of someone's life rather than it being something that is at distance behind
And
bars.
that's my cue to thank you. That's exactly what you've done, and it's incredibly valuable and a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.